Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August 24th meeting of Strategic Priorities, Communication, and Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee. Just a call to order. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest?
None.
Seeing none. Okay, could I have, we do have Deputy Mayor Yankoff is joining with us by phone today, and Councillor McKinnon is unable to make it as he has a conflict going on today. So we do have quorum, so we will proceed with the approval of the agenda. Can I have a mover for the agenda?
Moved.
Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by
I can second that.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Thank you. And is any, so can I have approval of the minutes from the last July 27th meeting?
No, August 23rd. Isn't it? I have here. It says
Sorry, excuse
approval
me.
of previous draft minutes,
Excuse me.
August 23rd.
Yeah.
I'll move.
August 24th, sorry, excuse me. Looking at the wrong date.
I move.
Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by
I can second that.
Deputy Mayor Yankoff. Any business arising from those minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Just again, trying to get an update on B, sale of remnant right-of-way, update on progress. It's the property, the property I'm speaking about is between Dorchester and King. I believe our CAO was dealing with that, or was the Director of Community Affairs? It's going where?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's our manager of asset management who has been leading that, and we did have that update to say that we are going to request for proposals. So we're still at that stage. I think we just have a couple of items being reviewed by legal before we do that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Could I get it, Mr. Chair? Could I get a timeline?
I can get you a timeline.
Thank you,
I just
Madam Chair.
don't have one here
Thank
today.
you. Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thank you.
Any other business from those minutes?
No, moved.
All right, good. All right, so moving on to reports. First up, we will have CAO Eleanor with Code of Conduct for Internal Public Appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a number of appointments recently to some advisory boards and committees throughout the city, and it came to our attention that we didn't have an existing code of conduct for these boards and committees. So we have drafted a code of conduct for you here today, and we are hoping that it can be adopted by council. And then from there, we'll have all the board and committee members sign it and commit to it. Thank you.
Any discussion, questions, comments?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. Mayor Brown.
So, Mr. Chair, we had this discussion in the last council from 2018 to 2022 about members of our ABCs. I refer to them agencies, boards, and committees. And I know that we had some members of those ABCs that spoke publicly through traditional and social media. And I know that some action, at least one action was taken on one particular incident. But I thought when we started with this new council for 2022 to 2026 that the ABCs would have an onboarding session to cover areas like code of conduct, which we have here. Also speaking to the public, what is the role of the members of these ABCs and or the chair, the vice chair. And we're now coming into the near the end of September, probably the end of 3/4 of the first year of this 4-year term, or 3/4 of this first year 4-year term. And I thought we were going to run it through our comms or communications department. So it's not just about the code of conduct, it's also about what members of these ABCs say publicly, whether it's traditional or social media, how it reflects back on the municipal government. So The sooner that we start it, the better, because just recently with the whole issue of the two variances that we dealt with on Monday night, social media was very active in what was being said positively, negatively, or just comments made generally. I just think we need to address this, Mr. Chair, through to you, to the CAO and our Director of Community Services, that we have to deal with this right away, because we all have a responsibility to municipal government, and I would say it for any level of government, provincial or federal. So the sooner that we deal with this issue, Mr. Chair, the better for all of us, elected, non-elected, and members of these ABCs. Thank you.
Did you wish to comment on that? I would have something, but you go ahead, CEO Elner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think part of the challenge with onboarding is we actually didn't have a document, a code of conduct to run folks through. So that was the barrier that we had identified. So we needed to come up with this document in order to do so. The document does address social media, does address communications, acting in the city's interests, why you're on the board or the committee in the first place, like your purpose really from an ethics point of view. So we have that all now in here, and the expectation now is we'll work with all these committees and boards and walk them through this code of conduct, and every member of the board must sign this code of conduct or they won't be able to participate in the board or the committee that they're on.
Would that be board by board sessions, or would it be all boards, like, the advisory, the Arts Advisory Board, the affordable housing, the youth engagement? Would we do them all in one fell swoop, or would that be kind of an individual? Because it does apply to all, the code of conduct does apply to all of those boards, so there is commonality with that. And I guess in terms of efficiency and moving forward, it would bring a lot more people together, which is a logistical problem. But I don't know, or maybe chunking it up a little bit. Maybe it's a couple of boards one night and a couple of boards another. And if you can't make one, you can go to the other because you're going to get the same information. So I agree with what you were saying. I was just going to say a very similar thing. And again, I'm coming into this late to the game, but just hearing some of the concerns that were expressed by councillors about this sort of thing, I see it in this document. And a lot of it did center around, like you said, Mayor Brown, about the communications and speaking as one voice, speaking and representing the city and what the city was saying and that sort of thing too. So I think it's great, and I think maybe better late than never if we have this, and if we can get the onboarding going quickly, and I would support that for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that's a great idea. We can try and train everyone together, but we'll have to go out to individual boards. It's worth noting, and I know I've raised this before, not at this particular committee. Generally, in different municipalities, you would find a position like a city clerk that goes to all of these board meetings and supports them from an ethical standpoint, and kind of keeps their finger on this kind of stuff. Right now, we're not structured for that. So that's something that I think we should be working towards. And as part of the commitment of what came out of the BDO report and all the work that we've been doing since, our goal is to continually work on strengthening our governance systems. And part of that is code of conduct. You'll also note in the board, in the report, that we're working on updating the public appointment policy. So we're going to start to see all these policies, bylaws, all these different things coming forward and strengthening us to where we really need to be today.
And as we get up staff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Deputy Mayor Yankoff, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I do. Thank you, Chair. His worship just referenced the ABCs, the agencies, boards, and committees. I'm just curious whether or not this code of conduct document would include the other boards outside of the ones maybe that were not, like the Airport Authority, where we have folks appointed to the mayor's office, as well as CADC, and there's a few others there too that I'm just wondering if it includes those. Oh, and the carry board. So I'm just wondering. I love this document. I absolutely support it. I think it's really well written. But I'm just curious if it does include those other boards. Thank you.
Eleanor, if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it doesn't apply to other boards because other boards will have their own code of conduct and policies, governance policies in place that will be expected of any appointed board member sent there. Now, that said, we do have space within when we're working on the public appointment policy, so not the code of conduct, but the public appointment policy in specifying in there that they will be held to a code of conduct in the body that they are appointed to, or something to that effect. We can put the wording around it.
Wouldn't we want, though, because we're endorsing the people on the carry board, we're endorsing the people on the CADC, we're endorsing the people on the airport authority. So if we're endorsing them, wouldn't we want them to be representing the city as we're looking for through this? So I'm wondering, I think it might be prudent to have a bit of an add-on. Like, I wouldn't exempt them from them. You're right. I mean, they would have their own, CADC would have their own code of conduct, which they would expect people to do. But I think we should hold our nominees, for lack of a better word, or appointments to the standard that we're looking for them to. I think that would be, I would like to see them included. I guess I just assumed that they were going to be in there, but I guess if they're representing the corporation or the city and the residents of Charlottetown, I think we want them to be conducting themselves in an appropriate manner. So I would like to see them included in this as it maybe in addition to what they're doing, whatever the local organizations are requiring. That would be my thought.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We can. I would also say, though, your public appointment policy, I think in that policy, we need to delineate when someone's appointed to a committee or an advisory board here at the city versus their role when they're appointed to someone else's board where we're like a shareholder, because it's a different role. And we say things like represent the city, but what does that mean? Because it doesn't make them a spokesperson for the city. It means they have to come back to council and review things through there. So there's a little bit more detail that we can add in there, and we can, like in the actual public
Delineate.
Appointment policy,
Yeah, okay.
and add wording in there in terms of ethics and a code of conduct in there too. So there's two ways we can go about this. But yeah, if you wish, we can take this back and add some wording in there. But ultimately, in the end, it would be through the public appointment policy where we can write in there, we reserve the right to remove anyone for unethical behavior in any sort of way. And even though we do have a code of conduct here, they are ultimately under the code of conduct of the board that they are sitting on of the day. Mm-hmm. Ethics are generally aligned, so that board also wouldn't want you speaking on social media and things like that too. So we could do it both. It's up to you.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I think the ABCs, agencies, boards, and advisory committees do represent the interests of the municipal government of Charlottetown. Therefore, they do, and as our CAO stated, that YYG, CADC, the Charlottetown Harbor Authority, Inc., SURF, they all have, each organization has I'm sure, if not a written code of conduct, an assumed code of conduct that when you speak not for yourself, you speak for the whole organization. So whether they're speaking for YYG, they have been appointed by the city of Charlottetown, therefore there should be an allegiance or respect of our code of conduct. And if I could say this, Mr. Chair, as an elected official, if I was to go on social media or to go into traditional press and call down individuals in our community, do you know what? I would be taken to task for that. I would, as an elected official, I would be asked to apologize or to resign. Now, I'm not going that far with our appointees, but our appointees are non-elected officials of this organization. Therefore, their behavior, what they say in the public, should reflect what the message is coming from City Hall, whether we like it or don't like it. And CAO Eleanor, I'm not talking about, going after freedom of speech. We all have freedom of speech, but we have to remember that there are parameters on how far we can go, like not using the F word or not using, derogatory comments about a person's sexual orientation. These are the parameters I work within as an elected official. So if someone that's sitting on an agency board or committee for the city of Charlottetown should also respect those parameters. And it's all about, Mr. Chair, transparency, openness, and accountability. I'm a big promoter of that, and I know during the last election campaign, there was some social media attacks on Philip Brown, my family, our family business, but you know what? We're in a business that you are attacked, and if I was to go back and attack them with the same content that they were throwing at me, I would be the one asked to apologize, to step outside, and maybe take another position in our community instead of an elected official with the city of Charlottetown. So we all have an accountability to the organization, whether you're an agency member, a member of an agency, a member of a board, or a member of an advisory committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's about sums it up. I support the same kind of clarification as both Chair and His Worship do in terms of making sure that it does cover all the ABCs.
All right. Thanks for that.
Or is this just for information? Yeah, okay. And you'll be getting back to us with the timeline.
All right. Next item on the agenda. Janice, are you speaking to this? Scott, you're going to have to move. Or she can join. You don't bite. Oh boy. So this is about charlottetownhall.ca review. This would be a follow-up actually to Deputy Mayor's request from our last council meeting where she asked to have this put on the table for discussion. So Janice, I'll turn it over to you and you can take it away from here.
Thank you, Chair. There's a copy of report in your package regarding the interactive engagement platform charlottetownhall.ca. As you've mentioned, Chair, this report results from some questions around the efficacy and the use of this platform. I've included some recent statistics and figures which I hope help answer any questions, but I'm happy to answer any further questions to the best of my ability.
Oh, gee, I got both of them open here. There we go. All right. Deputy Mayor, maybe I'll start off with you. Is there anything that you wished to speak to on what Janice provided here in her report today?
Thank you, Chair. Great report, Janice. I really appreciate the stats. It certainly helps to clarify the importance of the community engagement site. I'm still trying to get my head around the city of Charlottetown having two websites. And maybe I'm getting off topic a little bit, and maybe this is something for the next meeting. I'm just trying to get my head around two sites. Are we better to align the community engagement through the city of Charlottetown? I don't see many municipalities with two sites, and maybe I'm incorrect there. So if there's any additional information can be provided either now or in another meeting, that would be great. But I do thank you, Janice. This is super good information.
Go ahead, Janice.
Thank you, Chair, and through to the Deputy Mayor. Thank you for your kind words. I would say that charlottetownhall.ca is less of a website and more of an interactive engagement site. And I know it kind of sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but it's the use of the platform that makes it a little bit different from a traditional website. I do know that there are other jurisdictions that have this type of platform, but I am certainly happy to look into just how well it is used in other, like how popular a platform type it is in other jurisdictions and come back if that's helpful.
Have we done, like, I guess, again, I'm coming in, I didn't know, I wasn't here when charlottetownhall.ca was created, neither were you, Janice, I don't think either. I do concur somewhat with what the deputy mayor is saying in terms of, I like one-stop shopping if we can do it. And I don't quite, I'm not tech savvy at all. This is way out of my wheelhouse. But I do like the idea of friendly user, ease in finding information, ease in accessing information, ease in using information, ease in interacting with information. And I don't know what the level, I don't even know if the general public understands what one is used for and what the other is used for. Because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people still call the local councillor to get answers, which is true. I mean, there is more that does happen with the engagement. Obviously, I mean, we're getting engagement, but still a lot of that does go on. But I don't know, maybe, I don't know whether, I don't like to use the term jurisdictional scans, but just seeing what else is out there in terms of how they shape it, what their platforms look like. I think it might be a worthwhile exercise to see if there's something that we could tweak to be able to merge it into one. And again, I'm speaking from very little knowledge. I'm just trying to think of it as a user from the user end, the end user's point of view. And the more streamlined we can make our access to our information, I think the better off we'll be. And maybe it is a two-pronged approach, or maybe it's a singular prong approach. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I think it would be worth a look, see what's out there, see what the possibilities are. And, we do have, now that we are upstaffed, I wouldn't have wanted to ask you that 3 or 4 months ago, Janice, to do that, but, maybe we're at a better place where we can look at that. I don't know. You can answer that best, but anyway, I think it might be worth having a look at to see if they're part of that continuous improvement, right? We're always looking to say, can we do it better? And maybe this is an opportunity for us to do something better. Not sure.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, are you asking us to conduct this stamp to come forward for something in budget? Is something new that challenges what you have right here is 2 different platforms from 2 different vendors that you can't embed one, as I understand it right now, in the other. It would
okay.
require us to go with a different system of
okay.
sorts, which means
okay.
we would come at budget time if we were to do such a scan. So that's what I would
Okay.
ask you, if that's the ultimate goal of what you're looking for.
So that's great news, because again, I'm working with very little information here, and I'm trying to look at it from the end user site. But yeah, I'm sure there's all sorts of things that have to be considered, and I'm sure it's not as easy as that. That puts a different lens on things, to be honest. But I guess at the end of the day, or maybe how can we hopefully, maybe it's an education piece. Maybe people just have to be better informed as to why we have charlottetownhall.ca. Why do we have charlottetown.ca? And just even then, maybe if we stick with what we have, then I think maybe we have to have a little bit better understanding of why we have one and why we have the other. I don't.
Yeah.
Your
Could
worship?
I make a comment? When
Sure,
it's my
you go
turn?
ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you CIO Mohammed for some clarification, and as well Janice. There's a few things that I want to unpack in this conversation, and one would be, when I Google the city of Charlottetown, I go to 27 items down, and I still don't come up with Charlottetown Charlottetown Hall. The first thing that comes up is the city's website, and then it goes on from Facebook to Twitter and among other several organizations from the city of Charlottetown. So there's that where there's not really, a lot of people will just Google Charlottetown, and so therefore you're not going to find it well that way. The other thing is when I look at the homepage of our City of Charlottetown website, I don't see anything jumping out at me to say, hey, community engagement, click here, which could take you to Charlottetown Hall. And so although I'm not coming here to criticize, I'm coming here to ask if staff can give us a recommendation of an expert recommendation on how we solve this and how we get to a place that the residents are clear on what is what. And also the second part of this would be, and this is probably a budget thing, would be the actual City of Charlottetown website. I think needs some love as well, but that's probably another agenda item for another time. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, go ahead.
could I just put my 2 cents, add my 2 cents to this conversation? So when I was first elected in 2000, we were part of the Smart Communities Project. We got new monitors on the wall. We're being tied into the super internet highway back in 2000. Everything was going great. Here we are 23 years later. And our website is a heavy, heavy website. It's difficult to search, and I know you understand that, Janice. If I want to find a report, you know what? I might as well just go look for the paper copy. And I don't say that disrespecting all the work that's been done over the years, Mr. Chair. But, Mr. Chair, it's a big tool. And when Curly introduced this charlottetownhall.ca portal, great idea. I thought, wow, this easy to get to. Pick it up on your phone. You try to pick up the website on this little mini i13, you're wasting your time because it doesn't load everything that you want because it's a big document. And I've brought this up in the last council, and I'm going to bring it up this time around too. So our CAO talked about what do you want to do, like budget, the new budget year is coming up for 24, 25. I think this is a time to look at this whole package and let's do something about it because we're behind. And the deputy mayor is right. It looks like we have two websites, but charlottetown.ca is an interactive portal, whereas the website, well, it's like going down a rabbit hole. You just get into it and you're just searching for everything, and it might pop up and it might not. Depends on what you have, whether it's TELUS. It even could go back to, is your provider TELUS, Shaw, or Bell, like your service out there in Brighton for your cell phone. I just need, this is the time to do something with it, CAO or Mr. Chair, through the chair to CAO and Janice. This is the time to do something with this, this whole connectivity between this city hall and the community and the world. And you know what? I don't even think we have enough room on our website to allow the live stream meetings. We have to go through YouTube, which is a quicker, I believe a faster portal to get that out. So let's just really put everything together. But while we're talking about charlottetown.ca, charlottetownhall.ca, I'm still trying to connect to Bang the Table app. Is that Bang the Table app on? It's charlottetownhall.ca.
Is it not the same thing?
What's that? What? Bang the table?
Same as Charlottetown.
Okay,
I
so.
thought they were the parent name. I'm sorry for jumping in, Chair.
Oh, no, good. Okay, I'm on it right now. So if I want to add comment, then that allows me, plus I have to sign in
Yeah.
to be part of it. So
Yes.
how many people, again, it's signing in and I don't think the end users like to sign in. Why can't we just have it, you can go in and exercise your democratic right to express your opinion. If you don't give a name, an address, then it doesn't accept your comments. Because if I go to the Guardian website or I go to the CBC website, do I have to sign in to give my comments? You do have to sign in for both. Well, I know with the Guardian you do if you're a paid subscriber. So we're requiring anyone that wants to use our charlottetownhall.ca or /bang the table application, they have to be a signed in customer. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
That would be a very
Well, that's great.
common
I just
way.
learned something today. That's what I wanted to find out.
Through the chair, the reason why they do that, it's more from a security standpoint of view. If you're collecting engagement, you want to make sure one person could greatly influence the process if they had a lot of time writing and rewriting different letters. So they want to make sure that it's an individual person who
Yeah.
gets their kick at the can.
Yeah.
Something else to think about as well, there's a technology, it's all about plugging in everything that we need. So another thing that administration is also looking at is software in terms of our agenda preparation for council and how you can report that back through your website as well.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. If we're going to look at this stuff, it makes sense to look at it all together. So you have a website that supports engagement and supports council agendas and minutes and all those different things in the report back. So we can definitely look into that for budget.
And Mr. Chair, I'm not criticizing the administration. Don't Janice or CAO Eleanor or Chief Engineer, this is not a criticism of what's going on. It's been building. As I said, 2000, we had the new monitors, didn't know how to, I don't even think we knew how they worked, but they're still here, but we're a newer version. I just want to make sure that if we're going to use IT, well, let's use it and let's promote it. And if you have to sign in, let's sign in. Can I tell you this story? During the COVID, the start of the COVID-19, back in 2020, Mr. Chair, I wanted to go with a banner on the top of our webpage to say, please keep your distance 6 feet. Use all the precautionaries for when you're coughing or when you're in public. Well, it took us about 2 weeks to get that banner up, and I said, for heaven's sakes, it's just a website, guys. Come on. So just to get the banner up. So if we have a charlottetownhall.ca, we should be bannering that because Facebook can do it. All social media can do these ads on their own webpage. This whole technology, how we communicate with the citizens of Charlottetown or Prince Edward Island or anywhere in the world, should be interactive, and it should be easy to do.
Go ahead, CO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through to your worship. I think staff would agree with you in terms of the frustration with the website.
That'd be the first time.
And I think part of the challenge is a lot of these municipal websites are prepackaged for municipalities, and there's not a lot of flexibility in adding bells and whistles yourself because it's like a template that you're stuck to work with. So you don't get a lot of flexibility in terms of modifying it. That's something we can definitely look into when we're researching all these different sites and their ability to. It's a bit of a double-edged sword because if a simpler template allows throughout the organization different people to go into update the website easily with varying levels of knowledge of how to do so. the more flexibility outside of a template, it becomes more complicated, and the higher level of knowledge that every user needs who's updating that website. So that's kind of why you see these prepackaged tools being sold to municipalities like that. But we can definitely be conscious of that when we're looking around.
And Mr. Chair, not to belabor this, I know that we get time, we have another item on the agenda. But the other night on Victoria Row, the Moonlight Bazaar was packed. They did not do one piece of traditional advertisement. It was all social media. It was Twitter, well, now X, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Not one. So that's what we should be doing with our technology here, because we have the IT department, but probably need a bigger department to take on more challenges. But that's where it should be. We shouldn't, it's to get information out instantly, quickly, and yes, your keyboard warriors, this is a checks and balance on it with the sign-in. But if people know that they have to sign in for security reasons and to control, not control, but to be more respectful of content, people will get that. So I think that, Mr. Chair, the CAO is correct. This should be a budgetary issue that we want to look at, put these items together and make it more efficiently presentable to the public.
Well, I think the other part that was important too is how can we improve what we currently have before totally blowing it up? I mean, there may be some ways we can and maybe some ways we can't. I don't know. Maybe we have to go with a whole new system. But I think that's part of
Can I make a comment when you're done?
Yeah, sure. I think that would be part of the investigatory process and seeing what is out there and seeing what the options are. Just before you speak, Deputy Mayor, I'd like Janice, I think she has something that she'd like to add. Go ahead, Janice.
Thank you, Chair. It's a huge chunk of work, and there's been lots of things said that I do fully agree with. I actually do want to go back for a second to something that the Deputy Mayor had mentioned in her last comment. When you do a search on Google, the way the algorithm works is that it will always bring you the more frequently visited sites first, unless there's been advertising paid for. They obviously go at the top. But because some of the pages on charlottetown.ca, the website, have been around for so long, those are always going to be presented first. That's not to say that perhaps the SEO, the search engine optimization, wasn't set up correctly or at all when charlottetownhall.ca was set up. I don't know, and that's something that I've made a note here to go and look for. But in terms of being able to find charlottetownhall.ca, I would love if we could figure out how to add a direct link from the website to that. But in the absence of that, in the meantime, every project that goes up on the charlottetownhall.ca platform is always pointed to through the media releases or PSAs that are put out about those projects, because it is a project-based platform. So any kind of promotion that we do around that, be it a media interview, a release, any of the social media, will always point people directly back to that platform. So if it is an item that they're interested in, that the public want to engage in or learn more about, we're always making sure that we point them towards that.
Thank you, Janice. Deputy Mayor, you had something else you wanted to add?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Janice, for that. Just my two final points would be that, as Chair Beck said, if we are going to stay with what we existingly have presently, I would suggest or maybe ask, could we go back and talk to the folks that bang the table, because, they live in the world, of engagement, and, they know how to maximize a platform. Because I'm just thinking, as a second point, 459 visitors over a 3-month period. I don't know if we broke that down and looked at the cost of the access of that site for 459 people. I don't know. I don't know if it's Anyways, those are just my 2 final points. Again, I just thank you for all the information provided today.
Okay, so we are leaving it with, there will be, you're going to look at it, Janice? Is that kind of where we are, to see what our options are? Just, I want to put a bow in this conversation because there were some good points raised, but I guess maybe what's our next step? Maybe can you wrap that up with where we are? Because I'm a little unclear as to where we're going from here. Maybe CAO Eleanor or Janice, if you want to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So administration is starting to work on budget in October, but you won't see anything that quick.
Yeah.
So as part of this month of looking at that, we can do some homework and figure out what we can do with our existing for a plug-in, start there first.
Yeah.
And if you can't accomplish what we need to accomplish with that, then we can come up with an estimate of what it might cost us to shift to a different system.
Okay, so would that come back through to here?
It, bit of a change to budget process this year that's being proposed, but it actually would come back before like a
Administration?
committee of the whole of council. So all would be there in terms of what that discussion would be. If that makes sense. We can come back and provide an update here, of course. But
Yeah.
as part of the formal budget process, that's kind of the route it would be going through.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think it would be good maybe if we could have an update at some point in time.
So, Mr. Chair, will it come back here? I think, are we with,
The system has detected that a few lines are still connected to the conference and will attempt to disconnect them. If you wish to remain in the conference, please press star 1. 15.
You there, Deputy Mayor?
I'm here, and
Yeah.
that's a new business item for new business, what
Yeah.
just happened.
yeah. So could I just ask, is it Civic Live that we're with now for the web page? It is, which is, I think they do a lot of municipalities across Canada, across North America. Yeah, and that gives us a link with the bigger family of web pages. So could we just find out, like, what's the cost with Civic, is it Civic Live? And could we also get a cost of what it's costing, what is the cost for the, Mr. Chair, for Bang the Table application? Because I think we start putting these numbers together, we'll find out that we are paying, I think there's a cost for both that is, it's not cheap. So if that could just be part of the follow-up, I agree, Mr. Chair, good follow-up to come back to the strategic priorities, communication, intergovernmental cooperation,
that
standing committee. Thank you.
I think Janice had something, go ahead.
I do know that the charlottetownhall.ca website, I think there was an invoice that was in recently, so that should be a number that we can very easily get. Myself and Rory, the IT manager, and Carly, before she had left, we did have a discussion around the capabilities of adapting Civic Live to more of what we need, and in terms of what we are able to get from them in our current package, it wouldn't come anywhere near what we would want to see. So I think going towards budget, I appreciate the direction on that.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the update on the RFP or REOI, I guess we call it, the request for the expression of interest on the Queen Street Parkade. So we have our esteemed manager of Public Works here with us today, Scott Adams. So Scott, maybe I'll turn it over to you, and you can update us on what's transpired with that.
Thank you, Chair. and thank you for having me today. So just for everyone's sake, and I'd ask everyone to respect this as well, we're not going to release any names or have any parties that are involved with either process at this time. So I just ask everyone to refrain from mentioning names or suggested names. There are rumors out there who has put in submissions, and we just want to respect the process. So what I can tell you is we did receive two qualifying expression of interest. City staff, along with our consultant, MRSB, have reviewed both submissions and are both satisfied that both companies or both applicants meet the needs of what we would expect from a development on this property, both from a financial standpoint and a team behind them to make sure this project goes off well. So why we're here today is for two reasons. One is to get the approval from council to move forward with the next phase of this, which would be a invite-only request for proposal stage, which will include each proponent to submit a full-blown proposal. Part of that proposal will be greatly in more detail their schedule for the work that they're planning on doing, great detail on the vision they have for the site, and we're going to be asking for details just even down to materials used on site, just so that we have a clear understanding of what they're visioning for the site, and that we can provide both you council and the public with all those details, so that everyone can have their input, so that council can have all that information available to them to make a final decision. So where we expect to go from here, again, we would invite both proponents to submit a proposal. We would give them approximately, I believe we have set aside 8 weeks, which is quite tight, but we think it's doable, to put together a proposal, provide a schematic or some floor plans of what they envision for their property, as well as visuals, so some 3D renderings on how the outside of this building is going to fit in with the surrounding block and surrounding buildings, because that's also very key. We want it to fit in very well with the existing block and the neighborhood that's already in place. And so that we're projecting sometime in January, we would have both proponents come in, do a formal presentation to council, which would be live for the public to get to see. And then after that, we would take all their information from the renderings to floor plans and details from the proposal itself, the details that we can release. We would put it on our charlottetownhall.ca website. We've already started talking with comms on that plan as well, developing that plan, and then get feedback from the public. Then we would all package that up for council sometime probably in February, and work with council to make a final decision on how we would move forward from there. And if all goes well, we expect to enter an agreement with one of the developers at the end of the day. And we have put a stipulation, I believe, they would have to have shovels in the ground within 6 months from signing of that agreement, and can take no longer than 36 months to complete. So we expect something we wanted to put some timelines in there because we wanted to ensure that we didn't have a project just sitting there waiting to go, because we do know that we have to do something quite quickly with the parkade. So we wanted to make sure that wasn't part of their schedule for this work. So piece one for council is to get the green light to move forward with the ARP phase. The second request that we're asking of council is to, staff are recommending to issue a stipend of approximately $10,000 per developer. This will be payable upon completion of presentation. I've seen it where they were given a stipend early on to do some work, and it didn't meet what the expectation was, or they didn't even submit a proposal. So the goal is why we want to give them a stipend of $10,000. It's going to take a lot of labor, a lot of resources to put these presentations together. especially the 3D renderings. Those are very time consuming, very costly to hire those outside resources. We want to ensure, this is a big project, and we want to make sure we get it right the first time. So we want to visually see what that building is going to look like. We want to have all those visuals available for the public, so everyone has that clear picture of what we're voting on at the end of the day. So that's why we want to make that a part of the RFP, so that it entices both developers to put forth their best proposal they can for the project.
And I guess just to add on to that too, Scott, we do have skin in the game because one of the conditions is that we maintain ownership of the property. So there are certainly more than just the in-kind contribution. It's certainly a vested interest on the city's part to make sure that it is done right.
Absolutely, and if we went out for engineering service, if we were doing this a typical build that we would have done, we would have paid for the services anyway.
Sure.
So it's at the end of the day, it's not a over and above that much than what we would have paid in the past.
All right. So I guess we need a mover and do we need a mover
have
and
a
a seconder
question.
for that? Or do we have to put it on the floor before this discussion about it, or what's process on that, Eleanor? Do we have to have a motion on the floor before we discuss it, or?
So there is a resolution included
There
in the
is a
package,
resolution
so
here
if
in
you
the
want to read that
package.
and discuss
Yeah.
that, then that would be the likely
Okay,
process.
so maybe I'll read it so that City Council agrees to invite both developers who have submitted an expression of interest to participate in the request for proposal phase. That City Council agrees to compensate both parties with a $10,000 stipend to cover a portion of the costs associated with completing renderings, floor plans, and a presentation, and that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute standard contracts and agreements to implement this resolution.
I believe the deputy mayor just shouted out there that she wants to speak to it.
So do we have to move that or?
I move it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Would you second that, Deputy Mayor?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So discussion on the motion, Deputy Mayor, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, and it's probably not on the motion. It probably was a little bit back there, but anywho, I noticed in the report that the money was found in the Public Works Committee. I listened to the most up-to-date Public Works Committee meetings, and I didn't hear it on the agenda, and I'm just wondering, has this $20,000 been vetted through Public Works yet? Thank you.
Scott?
Thank you, Chair, through the Deputy Mayor. No, that's a discussion. It was intended that it didn't have to since it was going to council, but if that is something that does have to go through, then we can definitely make sure that happens.
You want to speak to that?
Go ahead, Eleanor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer that question, I'm not really sure that this is a Public Works actually project. This is more of a strategic initiatives project, so that's why it was felt that this was the most appropriate committee for it to come through. Sometimes what we've done is we've taken, when there's a dollar value attached, we send it through also finance. But I think the most expedient thing to do here is to bring it through to council. You have it in your budget already, so this is just a matter of moving forward with this strategic project.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair. CAO Eleanor, I think this is a strategic priorities, communications, intergovernmental cooperation standing committee issue. We do have project money in our budget for that, so it could come out of this budget. I think it should come out of this budget because the reason I say that, CAO, Eleanor, you always say there's not enough money around, but you just look for it and you can find it. Agree or disagree?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll take a look in this budget and see what we can find.
But if I could just
Just want to
add,
follow up.
go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go
Your
ahead,
Worship,
Deputy
you
Mayor.
weren't done. Just whenever, okay.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up, yep, okay. Thank you. So I just need some clarification then on proper procedure. how do you take $20,000 from the Public Works budget without going through the Public Works Committee? I thought that it had to be vetted through the committee the money was coming from, even if they have the money in the budget. That's my question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could just repeat what I just said. Deputy, I believe that the funding for this project should come out of this budget. This budget being, we have a budget under projects for the strategic priorities, communication, intergovernmental cooperation standing committee. So I think it'd be best to take it out of the budget that we oversee.
I 100% agree, but then the staff report needs to be updated before
Yep.
it goes to council, so it's reflective of where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Mr. Chair, could I just follow up?
Sure.
Look, this has been going on, as the chief engineer knows, this has been going on for a long time. I believe the garage was opened in 1978. Yeah, because I was just finishing high school at Colonel Gray and started my UPEI days, again, memorable days. So I think this is great. Am I correct to say, through the chair to the chief engineer, this is a triple P project?
To the chair, through to the mayor. Yes, essentially it is at the end of the day, because it's a government-owned property, and then a private party who will be financing the build at the end of the day. Yeah, so it's along those same lines as the P3 funding model.
And Mr. Chair, the reason I asked triple P, private-public partnership, is that if we, as the chair already said, Councillor Norman Beck, we do have skin in the game because it's our property and it is, I think, in the RFP that we'll continue to own the property. So that being said, we as a municipal government could apply for some of those government, federal, provincial, ISIP government funding programs to be part of this project because, Mr. Chair, this is a project that we've been waiting for a long time, and it's in the downtown core, and you know yourself, if you want to revitalize the downtown core, you need bodies, you need people living here. If you don't have people living here, then it's going to be like Toronto when the Bay Street shuts down, the downtown just goes dead. You want to create a downtown where there are lots of things going on other than just business, commercial, but activities, cultural, restaurants, theater, but you need people. And growing up in the downtown, I know as a little brown boy that grew up on King Square that there were lots of families around with 9 kids. I think the Becks were up to 8, were you not?
5.
5.
6.
I thought it was 8.
6.
But it was about numbers. So, Mr. Chair, I think this is a great project. I just would really like to see this RFP. I know that you're doing, again, through the chair to the chief engineer, you're doing your due diligence to ensure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But I hope that we can look at maybe and you did give us some timelines, that we could see this project starting sometime in end of 2024, first of 2025. That's a question to him. Is that possible? Through the chair to the chief engineer.
Yeah. Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Scott.
Thank you for the question. So, yes, that is the goal. And so I can provide a better schedule of events because we do have it drafted that we put in the RFP document. What this next phase is going to look like. And like I said, our anticipated timeline right now is end of January for presentations. And then after that, it depends on, how long we leave it open to public consultation, how many number of nights that the item gets debated at council, though that plays some factors. And then the next phase, once council agrees to go with one developer or the other, it's the contract, figuring that one out. That could take a little bit of time, unfortunately. We are going to be working with Cox and Palmer very, very soon to start getting the draft of that up. But there's going to be a lot of minor details that they can't write into that until the proposals are submitted and we agree to one direction or another. So that will take a little bit of time. But yes, at the end of the day, our goal is we had stipulated 6 months from signing of the contract or that agreement with the city and the developer, there's a shovel in the ground over there. So if we can get everything done by spring 2024, there's a very good chance that there's going to be some activity late fall on the site, and that is the goal. And just one other note to one of your other points, Mayor, about applying for funding. You are correct. So we have stipulated in both the expression of interest and the RP that even though our goal, we are not intending to financially contribute to the overall building of the structure, we will help apply for these funding streams and will apply on their behalf to do that. So we have offered that. So those are things that will be taken into consideration as this project moves on.
I think that further embodies public-private partnership. So good. I'm glad to hear that. Just one thing I just wanted to ask. So the public presentation piece, would that be an in-chamber presentation, or would that be an off-site presentation? Would they be coming in here, meeting with us at a special meeting of council, or would that be an off-site public meeting?
As of right now, we're planning for in-council chamber presentation so that we can video it and have that live feed available for the public as well.
Awesome.
Because we want the feedback from the public at the end of the day. It's going to be a big project, and we want all the feedback we can get and then present it all to you folks at council for you to make an informed decision.
Great. Thanks for that.
And Mr. Chair, just to follow up on what you're saying, or what you said, Mr. Chair, so both of us are with the Deputy Mayor, she's the chair of the Standing Committee for Planning, Development, and Heritage. So we will have a public consultation or a public forum explaining the different steps of this project. I think that's what I heard you say. Plus, if you want to look at past history, Mr. Chair, the YYG Airport, the chief engineer can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that roundabout was a cost shared through a federal provincial funding program, but the city didn't put the money in. The YYG they substituted as our partner. That's what I'm saying can happen here. Mm-hmm. And I believe the same happened with the Murphy Community Center when there was a complete retro or renovation of that facility. Murphy took our percentage and put their money in it. So that's why I like this triple P partnership triple P approach. There's accountability on the part of all of us. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Deputy Mayor, do you have anything else to add? Or are we ready to call the vote?
No, I'm good with this one. Just as long as the staff report is updated to reflect that the money's coming from SPIC versus Public Works.
Yep. Okay. So all those in favor of the motion, Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Yankoff?
In favor.
Okay. Motion carried. All right, final item on the agenda. Any items for new business?
I have one thing.
Okay, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
And it would just, we witnessed it during the meeting, and that's usually at the 45 or 50-minute mark, we get this annoying interruption. And I just think that we've spent all this money on updating our chambers in an IT perspective that I can't imagine we can't fix that disruption. So I just thought I could add that for new business going forward.
Who would that, you're okay with that? You'll make note of that, Eleanor? Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, anything else? No, all good. Motion to adjourn? Moved by the mayor, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Hope you're enjoying the Great North out there, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll do my best for you.